Chapter 1. A Quiet Morning Broken. Samuel Carter, 78 and weathered but unbroken by time, sat on a familiar park bench, his hands curled around a chipped ceramic mug. The morning air was crisp, the tea warm against his lips, a simple ritual that grounded him in a world that often felt unsteady. Around him, the park hummed with quiet life. Birds chirping, leaves rustling, the distant laughter of children. For Samuel, it was a sanctuary, a slice of peace earned through decades of resilience. But that peace was about to shatter. A shadow fell across the bench, abrupt and heavy. "You're not supposed to be here," a voice boomed, sharp with authority. Samuel looked up to see Officer Jacob Reese, a broad-shouldered man in uniform, his eyes cold and unyielding. The words hit like a thunderclap, splintering the calm. On Stories, this moment would mark the unraveling of a humble man's routine, a brutal intrusion that would turn his world upside down. Samuel's heart jolted, his hands trembling around the mug. "I come here every day," he said, his voice steady despite the shock. "This is public ground." But Reese's sneer deepened, his stance rigid with disdain. "Not for you it isn't," he snapped, stepping closer. In that instant, the gentle rhythm of Samuel's morning dissolved into chaos, a confrontation that cut deeper than words, a stark reminder of unseen forces lurking beneath the surface. As the officer loomed, accusations flying like shards of glass, Samuel's mind spun with disbelief. Fear mingled with defiance, a storm brewing beneath his calm exterior. Around them, a jogger paused, phone in hand, capturing the scene with a single click. The quiet park became a stage, Samuel's life a sudden spectacle. Had his simple existence stumbled into a corrupt power play? The question burned as his resolve hardened. Wouldn't let this break him. What would come of this clash? Could one man stand against injustice, spark a fire that turned despair into hope? The story was just beginning, its stakes echoing far beyond the park. Chapter 2. The Weight of Dignity. Samuel had never sought the spotlight. Born into a world of hard work and quiet struggle, he'd spent his years in a modest neighborhood where every brick held a memory of raising a family, of losing a wife to illness, of weathering storms both literal and unseen. The park bench was his refuge, a place to sip tea and watch the world turn. At 78, he carried the weight of time in his joints, but his spirit remained unbowed until that morning. Reese's voice still echoed in his ears, "Trespassing. Move along." The words were a slap, an assault on the dignity Samuel had fought to preserve. His hands, once steady from years of labor, shook as he set the mug down, the tea sloshing over the rim. "I've done nothing wrong," he said again, louder this time, his voice cracking with the weight of disbelief. Reese's response was a shove hard, deliberate, sending Samuel stumbling back, his shoulders slamming against the bench. Pain flared, but it was the humiliation that stung deeper. Passers-by slowed, their whispers rising like a tide. Samuel's chest tightened as he caught sight of the phone, its lens trained on him. This wasn't just an argument, it was a public unraveling, a wound laid bare for all to see. He straightened, meeting Reese's glare with eyes that burned despite their age. "You don't get to decide who I am," he said, the words a quiet thunder of their own. Hours later, in the sterile chill of a hospital room, Samuel lay still, the antiseptic sting mingling with a bitter ache. Bruises bloomed across his arm, a physical echo of the morning's violence, but it was the inner turmoil that kept him awake. His mind replayed the scene: Reese sneer, the shove, the crowd's murmurs, each memory a knife twisting deeper. "They can take my peace," he thought, "but they'll never take my truth." The words, whispered to the empty room, were a vow, a flicker of defiance amid the despair. Chapter 3. A Storm Unleashed. The days that followed were a whirlwind. The video, grainy but damning, spread like wildfire online, twisted by headlines that painted Samuel as the villain. Elderly man sparks park disturbance. The narrative stung, a betrayal of reality orchestrated by those in power. At home, his niece, Maya, sat beside him, her fierce brown eyes scanning the screen. "They're lying, Uncle Sam," she said, her voice tight with anger. "We've got proof, the full footage. We can fight this." In court, the air was thick with tension. Maya, a paralegal with a fire Samuel admired, presented the unedited video, her hands steady as she dismantled the doctored lies. Samuel took the stand, his voice low but resolute. "I didn't raise my voice to cause trouble," he said, meeting the judge's gaze. "I raised it to be heard." The room hushed, the weight of his life decades of quiet endurance pouring into every word. For a moment, hope flickered, a spark against the darkness. But the real battle brewed beyond the courtroom. The false story had ignited something in the community, a neighborhood long scarred by neglect and overreach. In dim basements and shadowed corners, people gathered, their voices rising in solidarity. Samuel's pain became their rallying cry, a symbol of the injustices they'd borne in silence. Maya leaned close one night, her whisper fierce. "This isn't just about you anymore. It's about all of us." Samuel nodded, his resolve hardening. "I've weathered storms before," he said softly. "If my fight can break this cycle, I'll stand as tall as I can." His body ached, his spirit scarred, but the fire within him grew a beacon for a movement he hadn't meant to start. Chapter 4. The Pulse of a Movement. The streets pulsed with life, a rhythm of drums and chants cutting through the urban sprawl. Samuel stood at the edge of a protest, his gray coat blending with the crowd, his voice trembling but clear. "I may be old, but I'm still here." Tears glistened in his eyes, pain, yes, but also a fierce hope. The crowd roared, their energy a lifeline pulling him from isolation. For the first time, he felt the weight of not just his own struggle, but theirs. Yet victory was fleeting. Betrayal shadowed every step, allies swayed by bribes, media spinning new lies, the system tightening its grip. In the quiet before dawn, Samuel sat in a safe house, a sparse room lit by a single bulb. The cost of resistance pressed heavy, fractured ties with Maya over strategy, scars that ached in the night. "Is it worth it?" he murmured, staring at the cracked window pane, the city's glow a distant promise. A young activist, Jamal, sat across from him, his voice soft in the stillness. "How do you keep going when every win comes with a wound?" Samuel's answer came slow, deliberate. "Every scar's proof I'm alive. I'm not fighting for me, I am fighting for a future where no one else has to hurt like this." The words hung between them, a testament to a man remade by struggle. Chapter 5. A Tide Turns. The tide shifted when hidden footage surfaced, raw, unfiltered truth exposing Reese's aggression. Public outrage swelled, protests grew, and Samuel's story became a clarion call. In a televised address, he stood tall, his voice cutting through the noise. "I'm no criminal. I'm a testament to what we can endure and overcome." The words rippled, urging a nation to question, to rise. Nightmares haunted him, still replays of that park bench, warped by fear, but they fueled his resolve. In a battered journal, he scrawled his thoughts, each line a defiance against silence. "I feel every blow," he wrote, "but these wounds keep me alive." The honesty steadied him, a quiet courage against the storm. As the movement grew, Samuel evolved from a man sipping tea to a reluctant hero. His journey, chronicled by his stories, wove a tapestry of pain and triumph, a legacy of resilience. The fight wasn't over, but his spirit stood firm, a light for a path forward.